welcome to Manga Mondays. And if you're new here, welcome. Hi, hello. My name is Zoe and this is my channel Mizz Manga, where I usually talk about all things manga related. And today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my thoughts and opinions on the complete series that I've read so far this year in 2023. So I have read 4 complete series so far this year, and in this video I'm going to give a spoiler-free review first, where I just tell you a little bit about what the series is and a little bit about my thoughts and opinions on it without going into too much. Then I'm going to have a little warning thing come up that says spoilers with a timestamp, and then you can skip to that. If you have not read the series and you do not want to be spoiled on the series, you can skip to the next series I talk about. So I hope that makes sense, and just pay attention so you do not get spoiled. So let's get into it. First up is An Incurable Case of Love, and this is a 7-volume complete series, and it is a shoujo, which is just a tag for romance aimed at younger girls. So it is a story about Nurse Nanase, who has been striving and working towards becoming a nurse just so she can meet the prince of her dreams that she encountered one time, and she was smitten, and so she is now actively pursuing him. So when she runs into the doctor that she had met 5 years prior, he is not what she was expecting. He is cold and harsh and not at all sweet and princely as he was in their previous encounter. So all her hopes and dreams are dashed and she starts feeling hatred towards Dr. Tendo. But it's really like a love-hate relationship, you know how those go. And yeah, like obviously her ideal image of him is shattered from the beginning, and then she learns to just respect him as a doctor and respect his care with his patients and his work ethic. And so then she comes to love him again, you know, type of thing. So it's not really based on the past, and she does talk about how she had these naive, impure motives to go into nursing to begin with, but that she actually genuinely loves helping people, and she is very passionate about her career as a nurse. So I like that element to it for sure. And I did find their bickering in the beginning especially amusing, and that like the enemies to lovers trope was there, which is why I picked it up, because I like that trope a lot. This one wasn't like super special, didn't give me like the like butterflies, or like, you know, just like when a series just makes you feel like you want to squee and your heart is getting squeezed. But it was just a cute story. So I would give this series a 3.5-star read. It was perfectly fine if you like shoujo. A quick, short, cute read. Very little spoilers. Just put spoilers and then skip to that if you don't want any spoilers. These are very mild, but just, you know, in case. One of the few things I did like is that they did not end the story with like the whole like marriage and kids thing. It was just kind of like he finally comes back from studying abroad and they're reunited, and it's exciting and special, and they're obviously going to get married, but like, at least, I don't know, I like that it didn't have to like give you the whole like what happens next. It just kind of like, now they can begin their life together again. So yeah, I like that aspect. But honestly, like, you know where it's gonna go even if they don't show you. So next up we have Quintessential Quintuplets, which is complete at 14 volumes. I did read this as part of a read with me vlog style, because it's just not a lot to talk about with the series in general. It is about 5 girls who want to do anything but study, and their fellow classmate who gets roped into being their tutor. And he's very smart, but he is struggling with getting these girls on task. But his family is under some debt, so he's motivated to try and help them because he's getting paid by their father. So he needs to help them study and get good enough grades so they can graduate so that he continues to get paid. And that's basically the gist of the story. It's kind of a harem because all of the sisters develop some sort of feelings towards Futaro, their tutor. And it's definitely like a rom-com. It's a lot of funny moments, cute moments. It's just a cute, basic harem story. So, you know, I liked the sister was very unique and developed in her own right. Of course, Itsuki is the best sister, and she made it all worthwhile. Every moment, every face she makes during the course of the series is my favorite. She's the best quintuplet. I don't care what you say. And yeah, so, but if you want my whole feelings on that series, then I'll put the link to that vlog video below if you want to watch what I have to say as I read that series. And then if you want to hear my spoilery review at the end, kind of my feelings about how the series ends, then definitely check that out. I'm not going to go into it because I already did before, so yeah. Overall, I'd give this a 4 stars. It's just a cute, easygoing rom-com read, and if you like that stuff, then you'll probably like this one. Third, I read Descending Stories, and this is complete at 10 volumes. This is a multi-generational human drama that's set in the world of Rakugo, which is a traditional form of Japanese comedic storytelling. So it's just somebody, a man, sitting and from memory reciting stories to the audience, and the way they're told, the tone, the voices they use can like bring about different emotions and reactions from the crowd. It's very like, it's like a very one-man theater kind of thing, and it sounds really fascinating. I'd love to see it, but of course then I wouldn't understand anything. I can't understand and speak Japanese, but it's still, it was really, really fascinating to learn about. And the story starts when an ex-convict who, while in prison, was visited by Yakuma, a distinguished and famed Rakugo storyteller, and this changed his life, and he decided that he also wanted to do Rakugo. So he tracks Yakuma down once he's out of prison and begs him to make him his apprentice. Yakuma had never accepted an apprentice up until this point, but there was something about him that reminded him of a man from his past, so he decides to give him a chance and make him his apprentice. So after Yakuma decides to make this boy his first ever apprentice, he begins living with Yakuma and his adopted foster daughter, Konatsu, who yearns to perform Rakugo, but because she is a woman, she is not permitted to. So those are the main players in this story. So while the story is kind of a more slow-paced one, the interesting characters and their interpersonal relations really keep growing deeper and more complex as the story goes, and that kept me engaged. And there's also a mystery about Yakuma and Konatsu's biological father, Sukeroku, and he was also a well-known Rakugo storyteller, but he mysteriously dies, and Konatsu actually blames Yakumo for it. And learning about those guys passed, Yakuma and Sukeroku, they're like, that was my favorite parts, was learning about their past. And I don't know why, but like my BL loving heart was just shipping them together so hard. And I'm like, I know obviously they're not that way, like at least explicitly in the story, like, but it's just like I couldn't help it. They were so good together. But there's nothing like obviously like that it goes into, unfortunately. It's a missed opportunity, no. But yeah, so throughout the story, it's definitely elicited some emotions for me. I was surprised, and especially because it's a slice of life, but I think because it touches on something that I didn't really know a lot about, I found it to be interesting and informative, and that kept me even more intrigued with the story, since it was just about this group of people all interacting with Yakumo. I actually teared up a time or two, and the last volume left me with a kind of a bittersweet, complex feeling, which I'd overall say I found the series to be very enjoyable and interesting read, and I'd give it like a 4.5 star rating. So my two problems with the story, like one is minor. These 10 volumes cover many years. We're not even talking about like Yakumo's flashbacks into his past with Sukeroku. That covers a lot of time, but then throughout the story we'll get to like the end of a chapter or volume, and then suddenly like you can tell a couple of years or at least like a year has passed, but then like it's not really addressed, so I don't know exactly where I am in the timeline of events of the present story. So that kind of would like mess with me sometimes. I'd be like, okay, how much time has passed? Like, what are we doing here? Now we'll go into a little bit of spoilers, and you can jump here if you don't want to know anything more than that. Only major complaint is some stupid throwaway thing in the last volume that just, it really gave me the ick. So in the course of the story, Yakuma's foster daughter ends up pregnant, and the apprentice that he takes in ends up marrying her, and they start a family, even though he is not the dad of the child. That has been established. But they create a family together, and that's really sweet. And it's implied that it is this mob boss kind of Yakuza leader guy that got Konatsu pregnant. But then we get to the last volume, and this guy is talking like years into the future after Konatsu has had another child with the apprentice. And then the first child that Konatsu had is like a high schooler. So many years have passed, and she's having a conversation with a guy who straight up asks, like he doesn't come out and completely, but he implies that maybe this first child is a result of her and Yakuma, like her foster father from when her dad died when she was like 6, 8 maybe at the most, to now. Like, no, stop it, Japan, stop it. I do not like that. I do not like this father figure who she like straight up had this like very tortured relationship with, that they possibly ended up banging, and that she got pregnant with his child. Like, and that she doesn't straight up deny it. Just, I'm like, come on, stop it. That is not what happened. Like, if we just didn't have that little bit in it, this would have definitely been a 4.5 star rate for me. Because of that, I'm like kind of confused as to whether to give it 4 stars or 4.5. It's not confirmed, but it's not denied. And I think it's super ick that her like adoptive surrogate father figure could have possibly been her first child's No. So yeah, that was an unfortunate addition at the very end to an otherwise very interesting, solid read that just was full of vivid, multidimensional characters and really great historical introspection into Japan and Rokugo. My last read I want to talk about is 20th Century Boys, and this is complete at 22 volumes. The story itself is a crazy mashup epic of doomsday cults, giant robots, and a group of friends trying to save the world from destruction. And I really like how insane this premise is. It's really interesting, and I found it to be really fun. This story spans a few decades worth, following the lives of a group of friends from their youth in like 1969 and to the present, when the story is beginning in 1997. So they're all in their 30s now, and in a disaster is slowly starting to unfold, centered around a symbol they created in their childhood. The main character we're introduced to in the beginning of the story, his name's Kenji, and he immediately I warmed to him as like everybody was bothering him about when he's gonna get a girlfriend or a wifey, and he's over 30, so oh my god, heaven forbid you're single. And I was just like, stay strong, Kenji. So it begins like, you know, just an everyday in the life of Kenji. And then we start immediately seeing that there is some crazy things happening behind the scenes in Japan, and there are these conspiracies and people seeming to be joining this very mysterious cult. In the first volume, it just immediately like sets up the stage, and there's so many twists and turns just within the first omnibus, or the first 2 volumes, you know, that it was very like immediately enticing, and I wanted to, of course, keep reading and find answers for things. I quickly read this series. Like, it's a longer series, but it was probably just a couple of days that I read it all, because it just, you know, it's very fast paced. There's always something happening. And I love stories where like the bad evil group or whatever is always like kind of a step ahead of the good group. And so every time they kind of like get closer, you know, they slip through their fingers, and it's like that frustrating but enjoyable like feeling for me. I'm like, oh god dang it, they were so close, but then like this happens, and now they're you know, not getting that crucial bit of evidence or information that they need, and like sometimes you know it and they don't, and it's like, ah. Overall, if I just ignore this little detail at the very end, which I'm not going to go into because that'll be spoilers, I would give this a 5-star read for sure. I just found it to be fun, but yet have a lot of emotional depth, be so interesting with so many mysteries and so many revelations, and the story just kept evolving and changing, and every time I thought I knew what was going on or I had some information, it immediately like didn't matter anymore, because then they were moving on to something else, and it was so complex of a story with so many characters, so much going on. So so many time jumps. So you really have to pay attention. But yeah, I think it's super bingeable, and I really enjoyed it. Anyway, so now I'm going to talk about the spoilers. So if you don't want that, jump to the end where I just say thanks for watching. Because my only problem with this series happens with the last 4 pages of this goddamn book. We get to the end, the very end, and I am just over the moon in love with this book. And they straight up ruin it by creating a massive and completely unnecessary plot hole. I have literally put black construction paper over these parts. Like, there's like 2 pages worth of the last 4 pages, and they are completely unnecessary. They ruin all cohesion of the story, and they got me so flippin' mad that I was Googling late at night when I finally finished, because I stayed up until like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. to finish the series because it was that good. And then I get to this and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? So upon Googling, it doesn't seem like this was the original ending, and that perhaps it was edited to tie in with the Japanese movie, live action movie, which would make sense, except for why would you bother to actually change it? Because it wrecks the actual story, which can go way more in depth. It frustrates me. So even though throughout the course of the book, we have met the friend, that he was someone that the kids went to school with, and we also see the friend die as an adult, and then he magically, you know, kind of giving that biblical Jesus Christ rises from the dead. And then it is then pointed out by so many characters that he is not the same friend as before. The first friend that they knew died, but then he came back, and so they were all like, wait, what the? And even the friend himself then, near the end, says, what would the original friend do? Because he is not the friend from the beginning. Okay, so then in the last 4 pages, retroactively take all of that back and say, no, this boy was the only friend. The first friend, he died when they were kids. You would have to explain so much more to me to make that believable, because I saw him die as an adult, and then the second guy got plastic surgery to look like him and try to be him, and that was part of the plan, was that so that he would rise from the dead, which was cool and interesting and really like give into that cult religious, like over the top, like spectacle. And so it was all great until they just retroactively were like, no, there was never that guy didn't exist, apparently. Like, he died as a kid, and you were the friend pretending to be him all along. Okay, so then who was the first friend who died? Answer me that. But you can't, because it's stupid, and you made a huge plot hole. This story would be, like I said, 5 stars, amazing. But it really bothered me that they printed that. I'm trying to get my hands on like the original 21st Century Boy individual volumes that they released, but of course they're super expensive now. And I went online and like read the scanlations online, and yeah, no, those 2 pages are not in there. So the original printing of it is fine. It doesn't have plot holes, and that's why I can't take away anything. But the Viz came out with a perfect edition and then completely put that plot hole in for me. Just makes me irate. I am just like, are you kidding me? This was a great read. How can you ruin it at the end? Especially when it wasn't the original story. So why did you... no one caught that this revision was a terrible idea? This edit was terrible. Do not include it because it makes no sense in the actual story. And it did make sense when I saw the forums online, because the person said in the movie there was only one friend. That would make sense. And that would be an interesting twist to add to the movie, because yes, this is 22 volumes long. And so having the 2 friends, that's a huge part of it and takes up a lot of time. So making it into only being one friend, and that being a twist that the other guy actually died and he just got plastic surgery to look like him or something, or he whatever was pretending to be him, that would be a good twist in a movie adaptation. I get it, but it can be its own thing. You did not need to change the actual story. Like, Urasawa, what were you thinking? Why would you do that? Like, and then Viz, why would you publish that? Like, I don't feel like from finding the original scanlations online of the last chapter and of finding that forum of people like talking about the perfect edition and the edit in it, that it was the original ending. So I just am very upset that they included that. And if it was his original intended ending, then yeah, this book would get like a 1 star for me, because that is a huge plot hole that nobody needed in that story. And it really bugs me. I hate plot holes. I just don't think it is, because I read Monster and there was no plot hole. It was a very concise, well done story. This one seemed very much the same until the end. I actually like this one more than Monster, except for that little ending just made me, yeah, was not cool. So yeah, those were the 4 complete series that I've read so far in 2023. And I think it was a pretty good group overall. Starting the year off strong with some enjoyable reads. And yeah, let me know down below if you agree or disagree with my ratings, or you know, opinions on them. Please no spoilers, but yeah, I'd love to hear what you thought of these series, if you've read them or if you're interested to pick any of them up. And I hope to see you all next Monday. And if you have not yet, please subscribe and join the manga family. I'd love to see you here every week, and have a good one. Bye!